This week's episode of Monday Night Raw opens in the ring with Kevin Owens. He comes out to call out Edge for the comments that Edge made last week in regards to how Owens went about winning his match. If you remember last week, Owens kind of started taking some guys out in the back. He really was not happy. Edge comes down to the ring and continues to basically tell Owens that he is disappointed in his actions, especially last week. That if he was trying to prove to Edge that he was worthy, Edge isn't going to take him out of the match. He did get in the match. He's not going to reverse the decision. But that Edge feels like Kevin Owens isn't worthy. So if he wants to prove that worthiness, he'll have an opportunity tonight against another guy that Edge is kind of a little confused with his recent actions, and that would be one Bray Wyatt. So Edge informs Kevin Owens that he'll be in action tonight in the main event against Bray Wyatt. It's got us off to a hot start. Continues the Kevin Owens Edge storyline, and gets us a B. From there, we go into a match between Wade Barrett and Apollo Crews. Gets a C plus. Just a way to build Wade Barrett. Give him a good match. Give him a good victory. And get a good match to open up Raw. I like to open Raw. I actually like to open every show with a strong match. I think that you get segment one. It's usually a promo or some sort of storyline. I'm a strong believer that segment two really needs to keep the audience's attention. And a lot of times you'll get jobber matches in segment two, and that's just like, eh. So, Wade Barrett goes over. From there, we go to a backstage interview between Charlie Caruso and Dolph Ziggler. And Charlie Caruso kind of starts off by saying, Ziggler, you talked a big game last week. And then when Tyler Breeze brought out Braun Strowman as your opponent, you ran away. And, we haven't seen you anywhere. You haven't been on social media. You weren't, nobody even knows how you got to the arena tonight because you weren't staying in the same hotel. And Dolph is kind of just like, listen, darling, this is blasphemy. I am the best Intercontinental Champion, and I will continue to be the best Intercontinental Champion. And to prove it, I'm going to beat a legend here tonight on Monday Night Raw. I am going to beat one of the greatest in-ring performers in WWE history. And you're going to find out who that man is up next. Ziggler would come down to the ring, and from out of the backstage area comes this man. Ho! That's right. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, baby. Dolph Ziggler goes on to embarrass Jim Duggan by submission with a sleeper hold. I love that the game made it a sleeper hold because this just ties into this, like, I'm going to beat the greatest WWE legend, Jim Duggan, and, oh, by the way, I'm going to beat him with a fucking sleeper hold. This is just to make Dolph look like the biggest prick ever. And he's clearly being booked as a pussy, and this is a pussy move. Classic booking, in my opinion. I mean, this is a classic story. Guy runs away from a tough guy like Braun Strowman, comes out the next week, says, "Oh, I'm going to beat a WWE legend," and it happens to be 66-year-old Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And somehow this got a C minus. Dolph Ziggler looked to get out there. He clearly carried this match because I don't think Duggan has. Shit, sorry. I don't think Duggan has anything left in the tank. From there, we go to a backstage segment between Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. And it's essentially, Bobby is saying that, Chad's got to turn things around, and it can start tonight. They're not in a team. They're not in a match together. But Bobby wants Chad to go out there and prove to him against a strong competitor, Mike Kanellis, that he's can right the ship. A lot of losing for Mr. Gable lately. And Bobby says he'll be watching from the backstage area, and go out there and show him something. And Chad Gable does not show him anything. An bout that had decent wrestling, little heat. Mike Kanellis defeats Chad Gable with the box office smash after a distraction from Maria Kanellis. So Gable loses again, and that kind of continues that story. This is a way to get Kanellis a win, and we will see kind of where that goes in regards to how Bobby feels about Gable taking another loss. Despite, distraction from Maria Kanellis, which I can definitely see how that would be likely to happen. It's got a C+. From there, we go to a backstage interview between Brooke Adams and Seth Rollins. Brooke Adams, one of my new interviewers. Like I said, Charlie Caruso. After I booked her in like 4 segments that one show, I needed to get some fresh faces. So I got 2 people on SmackDown, 2 people on Raw. That should be enough to handle it. This is just a really, really basic interview. Booking 101. Brooke recaps last week with Seth Rollins, recaps the simmering tensions between, the Shield, or what's left of the Shield, and the newly formed Kingdom. Seth responds by saying that just like they dispatched Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley, just like he beat Lashley last week, he'll go on to Money in the Bank, and he'll beat Jinder Mahal, and he'll beat any member of the Kingdom. He'll beat any guy in the locker room. Seth Rollins doesn't care. He'll take on all comers, and he's the Universal Champion for a reason. So got a B minus. Up next, in a bout that had good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd, Becky Lynch beats Mickie James in 11 minutes with a pump handle slam. They have good chemistry together. I discovered that booking some house shows. So this was a way to just get a good match on TV and get Becky a good victory. And I have Becky all the way up to a B+ in popularity, which is fucking crazy. So that's pretty awesome. Pretty soon she will be an A, and that's pretty dope. This got to be. From there, we go to a backstage segment between these 4 guys who are getting ready for their ladder match at Money in the Bank. Um, and essentially, it's really Dawson and Wilder saying that it's the new era now, and while they respect the Hardys and what they did for tag team wrestling, um, that Dawson and Wilder are here to stay, and that they're going to embarrass the Hardy Boys uh, and beat them in their own match. Um, Matt and Jeff, of course, kind of laugh it off, and they say that you know the Hardys wish that this match had taken place at Starrcade, uh, back in their hometown of Greensboro, uh, you know, back in Greensboro, North Carolina, so that the Hardy Boys could beat Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson, two guys from the Carolina region, right there in their hometown. And just a back and forth, simmering tensions between these two teams, and just kind of carries the storyline forward. Um, so, fuck you, Scott Dawson. That's all I have to say. Gotta be honest. From there, we go to the locker room of Sasha and Bailey. Edge booking the match last week as we went off the air, where these two will defend their women's tag team championships against Lacey Evans and Alexa Bliss. And Sasha and Bailey are in the locker room, and they're kind of just discussing the differences that they've had. And they say, like, listen, it let's put our differences aside. Let's forget about the Raw Women's Championship. Let's forget about Becky Lynch. Let's forget about this crazy nonsense of, like, who's carrying the team and who's the real star, and all that. Let's put it all aside, and let's go out there and defend these women's tag team championships. Except they don't. In a shocker, Lacey Evans and Alexa Bliss defeat the Boss and Hug Connection when Alexa Bliss pins Bailey in the center of the ring with the Twisted Bliss. Lacey and Alexa are your new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. Alexa carried this match. She did a great job. Goes about 18 minutes. And Bailey taking the loss after the match. She would be very upset. Sasha too would be very upset, but wouldn't console Bailey. She would just hang her head and kind of walk up the ramp, and Bailey would be calling out for her, but Sasha would kind of just keep walking. So new women's tag champions, Lacey and Alexa. This unnamed alliance. And yes, I do know that I'm breaking a cardinal rule that I set up in episode 1 with an established tag team. Will always beat two single people. But I think that everyone on this planet Earth can agree that even though this has a stupid, silly name that the game gave them, these are 4 singles competitors. And I am breaking this team up. That was my intention from like day one. I want to use them as singles. I don't want to use them as a tag team. I have got good tag teams, and I would rather put the title on 2 established heels I've kind of already had several matches. Not saying that these two are going to disappear from the women's title picture, but I've already had matches, several of them between um, Becky and Lacey and Alexa, and I don't want things to get stale. There's plenty of great women on this roster, both Raw and SmackDown, that I don't need to repeat the same matches like every month. It just really was just a way to get the titles off of these two, so that I can kind of continue to tell the story of their eventual split. I know that's kind of a spoiler, but obviously, if I take the titles off of them and I'm having Sasha walk away in disgust, like, I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that you guys aren't idiots that are watching this. You guys like understand a little bit about wrestling and a little bit about storytelling. It's pretty clear where I'm going, but it still is gonna play out in a pretty interesting way. So new tag team champs, gotta see. From there, we go to our weekly Elias Sings a Song segment, which eventually turns into a massive clusterfuck. I'm sorry, I'm really tired. I have not had internet. It's made this kind of challenging. I don't really feel like doing a hell of a lot of pictures and editing and crazy shit this week. At least until I get everything with my computers and my internet situated. I'm just gonna keep this week's episode like fairly simple with as little editing as possible, which means that some of the things that I usually do in terms of like surprises that I cover up with the pictures aren't really gonna happen. So you can kind of see what this turns into. But essentially, Elias out in the ring singing a song. And from there, Roman kind of comes down. His music hits. And, Roman comes out with a purpose. And we saw Roman on the Titantron last week with a pre-recorded interview. We have not seen him since Starrcade, in the ring. And he's back on Raw. And he gets on the mic and basically says, Elias, I got no problems with you, but if you don't exit stage left, I got no problems kicking your ass either. Elias, very smart, grabs his guitar and, says, all right, I'm out of here, and exits stage left. And Roman proceeds to call out the Kingdom, specifically Wade Barrett, as Barrett's the one that cracked Reigns in the skull with the camera at Starrcade. So Roman gets his wish, as the Kingdom kind of makes their way down to the ring. And they surround the ring, a la former Shield style, where you have, Wade Barrett kind of in front of the announce booth, and then, you've got McIntyre on one side of the ring, Mahal on the other, and so the only thing is nobody's where the entrance ramp is. Roman kind of at this point has dropped the microphone. He's no longer talking, and he's kind of ready for a fight. And before a fight occurs, Edge's music hits, and Edge basically says that he's had enough of the chaos. He's had enough of this inmates running the asylum. That there is going to be order, and he's here to run a show, and he can't just have all of his wrestlers jumping people from behind and smashing people with cameras and taking people out, because eventually people are just going to start getting injured, and we're going to have a big issue on our hands. So Edge says, you know what, Roman, if you want Wade Barrett, he understands why. Wade, you whacked our boy Roman in the face with a camera, and Edge is going to give Roman the opportunity for a little bit of revenge. So Edge books a match at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and it will be a no disqualification match between Wade Barrett and Roman Reigns. So Roman, of course, happy. But Edge also says that if the Kingdom jumps and or attacks Roman in any way, shape, or form the next few weeks on Monday Night Raw leading into Money in the Bank, then Jinder Mahal's number one contendership and his championship opportunity will be stripped of him, and Edge will replace him with somebody else in the main event at Money in the Bank. So Edge kind of laying down the law and kind of letting the Kingdom know that he's not going to stand for this shit. And Roman's going to have his opportunity at revenge at Money in the Bank. So a little clusterfuck of a segment to move along the story and get us a booked match between these two, and get us a B-. From there, we actually go right, and I forgot this was up next. So from there, Edge would kind of be like, oh, and don't worry, McIntyre, I didn't forget about you. You actually have a match next, and it's against this man. And out comes Eddie Edwards. Of course, we know that Edwards debuted last week. And this is a good match between two good workers here. Gets us a C+. 16 minutes. I just wanted to get McIntyre a win, and I kept Eddie strong in this one, and they had a good match. C+. From there, we go to a backstage segment. Buddy Murphy kind of just running into Akira Tozawa, who's getting ready for his mixed tag team match, first round qualifier, which I forgot to book last week, so I'm booking it this week. And his Buddy Murphy just kind of wishes Tozawa luck as they pass by each other in the hallway. From there, we go to that tag match, which I forgot to book last week. And in a match that had decent wrestling, little heat, Tozawa and Gulak beat Oni, Lorcan, and Kalisto when Tozawa got the pin over Oni Lorcan. So this is just to wrap up the first round. Tozawa and Gulak moving forward. So we will see two triple threat matches on 205 Live. And the triple threat matches are drawn at random. So there is no rhyme or reason. There's no like preset whatever. The next round's just going to be drawn at random. So it could be anybody in the triple threats, and I am just hoping that the two people that I plan on moving forward don't end up in the same match together, because I am really using a randomizer. So this got a C-. From there, we get a backstage segment where Roman Reigns is back with Edge, and Roman's thanking Edge for the opportunity to go against Wade Barrett, and Roman actually asks for a different stipulation, um, a stipulation that is very similar to no disqualification, but you know, Edge brought up a good point in that he doesn't want any outside interference against Roman Reigns. He doesn't want the Kingdom getting involved. So Roman Reigns was thinking, why don't we go ahead and put this inside of a steel cage? And Edge ponders for a second and grins and kind of just says, I like where your head is at. So the no disqualification match morphs into a steel cage match between Roman Reigns and Wade Barrett at Money in the Bank. From there, we get our main event. Kevin Owens and Bray Wyatt. And in a good match, Owens defeats Bray Wyatt. They go about 21 minutes. It beats him with the pop-up powerbomb. And gets the victory. Gets a solid rating of a B. After the match, Owens would kind of just leave, and what we've seen from Bray the last couple of weeks, these very odd promos where he just kind of wants to feel pain and have pain inflicted on him. He's laughing, at Kevin Owens, and he is laughing at the fact that he's still standing, and he says that I'm still here, and I haven't felt what I needed to feel. And from there, out comes Braun Strowman, who beats the living shit out of Bray Wyatt. Because we know Braun Strowman's always looking for a fight. And, Strowman just beats him all over the ring, brings him outside, choke slams him through the announce table, really just tears Bray apart and leaves him in shambles as we go off the air on Monday Night Raw. But just a way to continue this story, this odd Bray story arc, and gets Braun out there with his kind of badass, always kind of looking for a fight. And Bray asks for pain, and Braun's going to bring it. And as Braun's kind of leaving the ringside area, and this is kind of where I wish I had the way to shoot videos and shit, because I'll do my best to kind of explain the shot that I would want if I was directing or producing these segments legitimately. I'd want Braun walking up the aisle, and as he is turning to kind of give one more kind of pose to the crowd, you're kind of looking down the ramp at the ring, and you kind of just see between the bottom rope and the ring apron, Bray Wyatt's head kind of just pop up, between the rope and the ring apron. And his head just kind of creeps in and pops up, and he just has a smile on his face. And we go to the copyright information with a smiling Bray Wyatt, smiling after a shit kicking from Braun Strowman. So that's how we end our show. This got us a B. It increased our popularity in 26 regions. I did not want you to see something on here, so I'm actually going to black this out because I completely forgot that I booked somebody that I don't want you guys to know about yet in a pre-show match. So yeah, my dumbass is over here forgetting things. But anyway, the show did get us a B. It increased our popularity in 26 regions. It was mainly because of that hot ending. The B match between Bray and Kevin Owens, and the A-rated angle to end it. So what a week on Monday Night Raw. So we will see you guys for a little show the WWE Universe likes to call SmackDown Live. We open this week's episode of SmackDown with a lot of technical difficulties on my end in regards to recording this episode of SmackDown. I have no idea what the hell is going on with my microphone, my headset, and everything else. But I recorded this entire episode already, and it did not get the audio. So I'm dubbing over it on the editor. So apologies for it. Kind of the timing is going to be really off, and I'm going to try to time it well, but I'm obviously not going to time it perfectly. So I apologize in advance for that. We open up the show. Shawn Michaels on the Titantron, still recovering from injury from Brock Lesnar's beating. And he says that, recovery is going good, and that he will be back shortly. However, the show must go on. We will see the semifinals of the U.S. title tournament. Johnny Gargano against Sheamus. And in the main event, Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm sorry, not Shinsuke. That's not the Shinsuke match. On the other side, Miz and Andrade. And in the main event tonight, we will see Shinsuke Nakamura against Rey Mysterio. The winner of that match will get an opportunity to be in the Money in the Bank briefcase match to represent SmackDown Live. And we also have another match for the Money in the Bank qualifier. But before Shawn gets to introducing that match, he also talks about the SmackDown Women's Money in the Bank. There will be a 6-way ladder match at Money in the Bank. It will feature 3 women from Raw, 3 women from SmackDown, with the winner being the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. They can cash it in on either show, just like the men's. And tonight, we will see the first of 3 qualifying matches. It'll be Charlotte against Candice LeRae. After that, next week, we will see Sonya Deville against Naomi. And then following that, we will see another female qualifying match, which leads Shawn right into introducing that it'll be Cesaro against a returning top star, a guy that Shawn Michaels is happy to have on SmackDown Live. And it is, as the spoiler, like I said, the timing's going to be really off on this. Spoiler alert, it's Austin Aries. So, again, with all the technical difficulties that I've been having, I've recorded this thing 7 times. I'm not doing pictures this week. It's been a hell of a week with moving and having no internet for 5 days. I'm trying to get through this quickly. This video is only an hour. So essentially, Austin Aries back in the WWE Universe. Sheamus and Cesaro continue their feud here. When Sheamus comes down to the ring, tries to interfere in the match, Cesaro ducks the brogue kick after the referee's been knocked down, and he kicks Austin Aries. Cesaro, of course, then takes out Sheamus, puts Aries in the sharpshooter and gets the submission victory. So Cesaro will be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Austin Aries is back, and this is just a way to kick off the show with a good singles match between two good stars, and is also a way to continue the budding rivalry between Sheamus and Cesaro. So as I was rushing through to talk about this match, Mandy Rose and Natalya is your third women's Money in the Bank qualifying match. From there, we go to commercial break. When we come back from commercial break, we got Sheamus. He's in the backstage area on a rampage. Runs into Ricochet and gives Ricochet a brogue kick as Michaels announced earlier. It'll be Gargano and Sheamus later tonight in the U.S. Title tournament, and Ricochet, of course, friends with Gargano. Sheamus takes him out. From there, we go to the locker room of the Horsewomen of the Apocalypse. They are preparing for a tag team match later tonight against Naomi and Carmella. And they both, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, kind of talk about their qualifying matches for the Money in the Bank. And meanwhile, Shayna basically gives them marching orders to just go ahead and just eliminate Naomi. Just take her out tonight. Just end her. Sonya, that'll put you right in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And we won't have to worry about Naomi getting her nose into our business anymore. And Shayna basically says that she's focusing all of her attention on Asuka, whom we have not seen since Starrcade. So good little segment here with the featured group on SmackDown Live, which brings us to another backstage segment. We switch over to the trainer's room where Gargano and Candice, clearly concerned, checking up on Ricochet. And Ricochet basically says, hey, don't worry about me. Go out there, Candice. You got a match up next against Charlotte. Super important for your career. Go out there and show the world what Johnny and I know. Show the world that you're one of the best up-and-coming female stars. And Johnny, later tonight, things just got personal with Sheamus. And go out there and show the world that you deserve the United States Championship, and get a little revenge for me. Johnny and then wishes Candice well, which brings us right to the match between Charlotte Flair and Candice LeRae, the first of three women's Money in the Bank qualifying matches. Charlotte does pick up the victory. I'd love to put Candice over, but at this stage, it's still a little early in her career in this universe. She's not even called up in real WWE. I called her up because, I want fresh faces. But it's just not her time. Charlotte's still an established star, still a veteran, and very deserving of a opportunity to be the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. She sets her sights on getting a chance at Becky Lynch. So Charlotte with the victory with the figure eight. Good match between these two. Got a C rating. So a good way to get Candice strong against a strong female character. Up next is a interview with the Usos and Andrea DeMarco. Usos basically recap that they have dominated the tag division, and that they've beaten everybody. They've beaten the New Day. They beat the Bar. And they ended the Bar's tag team career. They split that team up. There's nobody on this roster that can match against these two guys. So they basically say moving forward, it's going to be a weekly SmackDown segment. The Usos open challenge starting next week. Any team in the locker room, any singles guys in the locker room that want to team up and want a shot at the Usos, bring it on. They'll take on any comers. They don't care because they're going to beat everybody. So up next, we go into that tag match. Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville against Naomi and Carmella. And Sonya Deville gets the victory over Carmella, I believe. Keep in mind, I cannot see what's happening as it's super small on my screen, so I can't really read everything, but I'm pretty sure that's how I had it booked. Either way, the Horsewomen get the victory over Carmella and Naomi in a good little hard-fought match. Kind of continues the story. Carmella, good face, comes out, helps out Naomi in this tag match. They don't get it done. The Horsewomen do get the victory. But, unfortunately for the Horsewomen, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, as out from the crowd after the match comes the returning Asuka. She hits the ring with, babyface fury, and takes out both Sonya and Mandy. She's hitting them with suplexes, German suplexes, hard kicks. She is just all over these two women, which eventually brings Shayna Baszler out from the back, and Baszler runs in, and Asuka, despite the fact that she's taken the other two out, realizes 3-on-1 probably not a good idea. She slides out of the ring, jumps over the barricade back into the crowd, and a very upset Shayna Baszler and a very happy returning Asuka stare each other down as we move into our next segment, which would be a commercial break. When we come back from break, Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar, they come out and they basically announce that the terror of Brock Lesnar, the reign of Brock Lesnar, began at Starrcade with Shawn Michaels, and it's going to continue each and every week until Shawn Michaels gives Brock Lesnar a shot at, the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. That he will call out anybody and anybody from the back, and when they come out, he's going to take them out. So he does call out somebody and says, anybody out there that's got the balls to step in the ring with me, come on out. Of course, that is answered by a tough son of a bitch, a hard-nosed bastard in Rhino, who comes out and doesn't get on the mic, doesn't have to talk, doesn't have to do much of anything. Essentially just kind of gives Brock a nod. And basically we got ourselves a match here. And I'm going to take a sip of water because I don't think I've stopped since we started here. And while I play with my dumb mouse like I've noticed I do a lot in these videos, I don't know why the fuck I talked this long on this regular video, but I've told the story. The story is that Brock's on a rampage until he gets a title shot, and he demolishes Rhino. For as tough as Rhino is, this is a typical Brock Lesnar WWE booked match here. Just total destruction. I think I had him go 6 or 7 minutes. Nothing crazy. Rhino would probably come out of the gate hot with a spear. I figure he'd miss him, and then it's all Brock from there. After that, we go to commercial. We come back, and we get Kofi Kingston and the New Day in the ring. And they basically call out Sami Zayn, and Kofi says that he's sick and tired of Sami sticking his nose in their business, and if Sami wants a title shot that badly, then by God, I'm not running from him. I'll give him a title shot. So at Money in the Bank, Sammy, you got your title shot. This, of course, brings Sami Zayn out, who's very happy to hear that he's got himself a title shot. And, Sammy goes, I want to do one further. I'm sick and tired of all this happiness and all this positivity and all these rainbows and all these butterflies and all these fucking unicorns and the bootios and all this other stuff. I want to put an end to the New Day once and for all. And, of course, Xavier steps up to the plate and says, why not wait till Money in the Bank? Why not take your best shot next week here on SmackDown Live against me? And Sammy said that basically says he'll be happy to, as it's his mission to put an end to the New Day and the power of positivity that the New Day brings to SmackDown Live. That this is going to be what Sammy calls the era of realism. And Sammy says, newsflash, real life sucks. And, real life is I get injured when I'm getting my push, and then I got to watch you idiots, talk about how happy you are. So that just continues that story. Brings us right into U.S. title semifinal match between Gargano and Sheamus. And in a typical babyface comeback match, Sheamus dominating the littler guy the entire match. And Gargano is able to get kind of a flash pinfall victory. Little sneaky little victory on Sheamus. Good match between these two, B-. When I booked it, Sheamus was furious with the booking because I put Gargano over. I don't really give a fuck. Essentially, the story on this thing is that this is supposed to have been Eric Young. And I had to kind of throw a curveball because Eric Young dislocated his elbow and is injured, I think, for like 3 months or something like that. So I had to change a lot of different things. This is supposed to be Eric Young versus Xavier Woods. I had to replace Aiden English with Sheamus to have Xavier lose so that I could have a heel in the second round because it was Aiden, because, Gargano was going to be moving on as a babyface, so I didn't want another babyface when my final is going to be a babyface. So anyway, long story short, that's how Gargano ends up in here. John Cena segment basically announcing that he will be on SmackDown Live to address Dave Bautista and the Unfinished Business. Up next, U.S. title semifinal. The Miz, Andrade. Two guys that have had a lot of budding tension in this universe ever since we started. And, The Miz and Andrade back and forth contest. And The Miz beats Andrade using some of Andrade's own tactics when Maurice provides distraction, allowing The Miz to capitalize and hit the skull-crushing finale and get the victory. So The Miz moving on to the finals. So it will be The Miz versus Johnny Gargano at Money in the Bank for the vacant United States Championship. Of course, a championship vacated by Samoa Joe when Samoa Joe was suspended. After the match, however, Andrade and Zelina Vega are able to get their hands on The Miz and get a pair of handcuffs and cuff The Miz to the top rope. And they force The Miz to watch as they set up a table and they put Maurice through a table. And, basically they are forced to watch, or The Miz is forced to watch as they dismantle and take out The Miz. The Miz's wife, Maurice. The reason for this, of course, is that, like all this other random crazy shit that has happened in this TEW universe, the Maurice and The Miz are pregnant again. The game will eventually put Maurice on leave, so I am just beating the game to it, and I'm writing her off. The Miz does not need a manager. He's over enough. He's charismatic enough. He's good enough on the microphone. Um, doesn't need a manager. Plain and simple. Uh, so I wrote her off. So say your farewells to Maurice. She's going to have another one of Mrs. Children in this universe. And I am doing my best to stay with my overall plan, which I have written out a year's worth of television, and this game is doing its best to fuck me. But I think that we're doing good. Taking Maurice out really just adds fuel to this rivalry and the story that I am telling between Andrade and the Miz. Miz and Maurice, very attractive people. They are, the A-listers, blah, 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 blah. And Zelina and Andre, they want that A-list spot. And they know that in order to get it, you take out the current A-listers, the Miz and Maurice. Andre and Zelina, they want their TV shows. They want the USA Network spots. They want the movies. And they want to be on the posters. So this just adds fuel to that fire. Bon voyage, Maurice. I bid you farewell. Thank you for the 3 or 4 segments that you've been in, but have fun. From there, we go to our main event of the evening between Shinsuke Nakamura, Rey Mysterio, for the final spot in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And Shinsuke, in a hard-fought match, I think I had him go about 20 minutes, gets the victory over Rey Mysterio. I knew that this was going to be a strong main event, which is why I booked it. And 2 great workers, and Shinsuke gets the victory. So Money in the Bank shaping up to be a strong pay-per-view for the WWE here. The 4 SmackDown stars, we have them. It is Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, and of course Cesaro. So that is your 4 representatives for SmackDown Live in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Of course, the 4 representatives for Raw. I'm going off memory. I hope I get them all right here. Finn Balor, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and of course Bray Wyatt. So big Money in the Bank ladder match. I mean, a lot of stars there, and a good show here for SmackDown Live. Took place at the Nassau Coliseum in front of 14,500 fans, which I believe is a sellout for the Nassau Coliseum in regards to this game and in this universe. So a solid main event match here, B rating. I play with my mouse a lot. I do not know why I do that. I think, well, I do. I kind of have ADD, but it is what it is. Now I'm going to leave you with looking at Shawn Michaels because I realized that same thing I did with Raw. I'm starting to book some, pre-show matches and stuff to continue to get over some talent. And I did book a couple of people that you guys don't know about. They've yet to debut, but I am giving them, rather than bury them down in NXT, I do have plans to bring them up a lot sooner than normal. So what I'm doing is just, booking them in some pre-show matches to kind of build up their popularity, kind of like what NXT would do for me. But the problem is that I can't book NXT, so I can't really, do what I want with those guys. So if I have immediate plans, by immediate I mean within 2 months of me signing somebody, I just keep them on the roster. I keep them buried, and I am going to be booking them in some pre-show matches and stuff. So don't be surprised if I black out that screen that you guys are used to seeing that kind of gives a recap of the show with the show rating. The show rating was a B for this. It did increase our popularity in 21 regions, which is actually really good. So Raw, B rating, 28 region increase. SmackDown Live, B rating with a 21 region increase. So great week. So up next is none other than a little show that I like to call 205 Live. Enjoy it. We open this week's episode of 205 Live from inside the ring, where we have Buddy Murphy, who basically comes out and kind of protests the cruiserweight tournament. He saw the tag action take place, and he saw the 6 guys that are moving on to the next round, and Murphy clearly doesn't want any part of them. William Regal comes out to inform Murphy that he will be wrestling tonight on 205 Live, and that he'll be taking on Kalisto. Buddy Murphy protests, and William Regal reminds Murphy that while the match tonight against Kalisto isn't a title match, that Regal wants a competitive fighting champion, and soon enough he'll be defending that title against the winner of the Cruiserweight #1 contendership tournament. That brings us right into the second round of the Cruiserweight Championship title shot tournament. So the first round was mixed tag team matches. The second round is triple threat matches. So this is a match with Kushida, Jack Gallagher, and Lio Rush. All 3 men moved on, and they went about 15 minutes, and Kushida got the victory over Lio Rush with a move called the Midnight Express. So this just moves along the Cruiserweight storyline and gets us a D+. From there, as Kushida is kind of exiting the ringside area, walking up the ramp, Buddy Murphy kind of comes running down, and he just kind of starts assaulting Kushida, and hits him in the head with the title. Throws him into the barricades, gives him a suplex off of the, not off of, but gives us a suplex onto the ramp, kind of drags him up, and, Buddy Murphy kind of launches Kushida off of the side of the entrance stage, down through some tables and some of the equipment, and kind of stares him down. And Kushida, a bunch of road agents, referees come out. Everybody's kind of attending to Kushida, including William Regal, who's screaming up at Murphy, saying like, "What have you done? What is wrong with you?" And kind of just tells the story that Murphy clearly does not want to face any of these other cruiserweights, and he vowed to make sure that this tournament didn't continue, and taking out Kushida is definitely one way to do it. So we'll kind of see where that goes. It's got a D+, which leads us right into our match with Buddy Murphy. So he would kind of pretty much already be out there. His music would hit. He'd come down to the ring, and then Kalisto would come out, and these two go about 13 minutes, and Buddy Murphy gets the victory over Kalisto. I am trying to build up Murphy because he is the champion, and Kalisto's one of the more over cruiserweights like on the roster in terms of popularity. So this was just a way to get Buddy Murphy a victory over one of the more popular guys, and actually got a pretty good rating, a C-. From there, we go back to the backstage area. where Kushida is being attended to by the trainers. William Regal is checking on him, concerned, wondering if he is going to be able to compete on next week's Monday Night Raw, where the finals will take place. Obvious concern for Kushida and his health. From there, we get a video package letting us know that Brian Kendrick has a major announcement for us next week. So tune in to 205 Live to hear Brian Kendrick's major announcement. From there, we get our main event, which is the second of the 2 triple threat matches, and between Ali, Drew Gulak, and Akira Tozawa. These guys go about 15 minutes, and Mustafa Ali gets the victory over Drew Gulak with a reverse 450. This, again, just sets up and continues the Cruiserweight number 1 contenders tournament. And we now have a final, which will take place Monday night on Raw. And it will be between Mustafa Ali and not Drew Gulak. I'm looking at Drew Gulak. Mustafa Ali and Kushida. So hopefully that is a really good match. I originally was going to have Akira Tozawa and Ali in the final. And I wasn't going to call up to Kushida. But then I was watching a couple of NXT matches, his matches specifically with Gulak. And, I said, this guy doesn't really need to be in NXT. And I've been watching a lot of New Japan lately. And I really dig Kushida. So I kind of changed the plans up minor. It didn't really change much. I mean, it's just basically subbing out, Kushida for Tozawa. So, anyway, that's it for this week's episode of 205 Live and this week's episode. Hope you guys are enjoying everything so far. It's been kind of hectic getting the last couple of videos out, and I've been super tired because I just moved and I didn't have internet, and it's been a couple of crazy days. So this got a C, and overall a C show out of 205 Live. Maybe there's hope for this show yet. Good strong end to the show. So thanks guys, we'll see you next time.